What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today I got for you guys my top 25 point guards heading into this year's college basketball season. We're going to do this for all 5 positions, and we got a bunch of other content here on the channel for college basketball. College football just started, got a lot of content on that, and even a college football 25 dynasty series. So if you're into that, make sure you guys go give that a watch as well. And yeah, guys, without further ado, let's get into our top 25 point guards. So here is my list, my top 25 point guards in college basketball heading into this year with some honorable mentions as well. And make sure you guys remember, these are just point guards, not all guards. We're going to do a separate video for the shooting guards. So these are purely point guards that I am ranking here today. And with that being said, let's get right into it because there are some really good returning point guards coming into this season. Starting with my number 1 point guard heading into the year, Mark Sears at Alabama. He was a machine last year, especially in the March Madness tournament. Averaged 20 points per game all year long last year. Led Alabama to the Final Four. He is a really good scoring point guard. Probably the best, arguably, with my number 2 that I have here coming up in RJ Davis for North Carolina. Another really good scoring guard who is returning for what feels like his 6th year, honestly. He's been in college for quite some time. This will be his final year at North Carolina, and he's going to be great once again. Again, another player that averaged over 20 points per game last year. Mark Sears, RJ Davis, my 2 top point guards heading into this year. Number 3, I feel like Mark Sears, RJ Davis, pretty consensusly the top 2 point guards in my opinion. Wade Taylor at number 3 for Texas A&M, a little bit controversial. I could see a couple different players up here at number 3 depending on what you value. I think Wade Taylor is an excellent playmaker and also a scorer. Really, Texas A&M runs their team through Wade Taylor, runs their offense through him. He's also a decent defender as well. I have Wade Taylor as my number 3 point guard heading into this year. I think this has to be the year that Texas A&M really makes some noise in the SEC with Wade Taylor. I believe this will be his final year in college. Number 4, Braden Smith. Not a lot of people are going to agree with me on this one, I feel like. But Braden Smith, one of the best playmakers in college basketball. Averaged over 7 assists last year. And you could say a lot of that has to do with, passing the ball down to Zach Edey, letting him work. But honestly, with Trey Kaufman-Renn coming in, who I believe is going to be one of the breakout players in college basketball this year, I think Purdue's still going to be really good. It's going to be Braden Smith now heading into his junior year that is going to have some veteran guard play up there now. He's only going to improve upon last year. I think Braden Smith is a top 5 point guard heading into this season. Next up at number 5, I got Tamin Lipsey for Iowa State. Iowa State, one of the teams that is returning the most players from last year, and they were a 2 seed in March Madness last year. So Tamin Lipsey returning their starting point guard, going to be huge. Super good scorer, super good playmaker especially. I have him at number 5. Number 6, I have the first player on this list that is actually heading to a new school than he was at last year. Last year, JP Peggs was on Furman, and he was a super good scorer, averaged over 17 points per game, lots of assists as well. Transfers down to play for Auburn this year. I think he is going to be super good. I have him as my number 6 player. First transfer point guard here on this list today. Next up, right behind him at number 7, we have another transfer point guard. The transfer from Duke, Jeremy Roach. He is now going to be a senior heading into his final year of college basketball, and he has decided to transfer over to Baylor. And he was really good at Duke, scoring even over the past few years, ever since their Final Four run, which was Coach K's last season as the head coach. He was still their point guard back then, so he has a lot of experience. He's been to a Final Four. Now he's going to go play for Scott Drew, who is notorious for pushing out good point guards into the NBA and having good point guard play and really just guard play in general. They're the Baylor Bears, and I think Jeremy Roach going over to play for Scott Drew only going to help him improve upon his game. I have him as my number 7 point guard heading into this season. Next up at number 8, we have DeJuan Harris Jr., the point guard for Kansas. Another player with a ton of experience. He won a national championship with Kansas a couple of years ago. He is the starting point guard the last 2 years for Kansas. This will be his senior year. One of the best playmakers for in the country. And DeJuan Harris is one of those players where you look at his stats and you're like, no way DeJuan Harris is a top 10 point guard in college basketball. He doesn't even average 10 points a game. But he is one of those players where you really have to watch the games to see his impact on this team. Even when he's not getting the assist, he is running the offense. And whenever DeJuan Harris is shooting the three ball, it's usually going in, and that usually means Kansas is winning. I mean, if he is shooting the tray ball, it is usually because he's wide open, he takes efficient shots, and he usually knocks them down. DeJuan Harris, definitely a top 10 point guard in college basketball. I have him at number 8, but I could definitely see arguments for him being higher. I just don't think he has the scoring impact of a lot of the guys ahead of him. Next up at number 9, I do have Ryan Nembhard, the point guard for Gonzaga. He was their point guard last year, and then before that, he played 2 years at Creighton as their point guard. Always showed that he had a lot of potential. His brother, Andrew Nembhard, who used to play for Gonzaga as well, is in the NBA. Super good player, and he had a really good year last year. He started off a little bit rocky, but over the course of the year for Gonzaga, he started to play very good, and I expect him heading into his senior year now to be one of the better point guards in the country this season for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. At number 10, kind of a surprising pick here. This is kind of my breakout player. I mean, he broke out last year. He was very good last year, averaged like 16 points per game, some assists as well. But Bruce Thornton for Ohio State, I think one of the more underrated players in the country, and I'm kind of in this boat where I think Bruce Thornton could definitely climb this list and maybe become a top 5 point guard by the end of the season. Maybe a little bit overrating him right now, but I believe he is extremely underrated. I think Ohio State heading into the preseason is definitely being underrated as well. I think Bruce Thornton is going to have a big-time season for the Buckeyes this year. I have him coming in here as the number 10 point guard heading into next season. Number 11, I have Walter Clayton. Walter Clayton, I could definitely see arguments for him being above Bruce Thornton, but I do have Walter Clayton here at 11. I think he's a phenomenal player. Definitely would listen to some arguments for him to be a top 10 point guard. Super good scorer. He's one of those players that really the Florida offense runs a lot through him. Not as much as like a Wade Taylor or RJ Davis, Mark Sears, but it really does run through him. But I do have him coming in here as my number 11 point guard. We got another transfer here at number 12. The transfer from Washington State. He is going to Indiana, and wow, this is such a big pickup for the Hoosiers because not only are you getting a really good point guard, but you are getting a guy who can drive to the rack, defend, because he is a point guard who is 6'5", a very tall, lengthy defender, and a really good playmaker. Super good player here for Indiana. Miles Rice is my number 12 point guard. Number 13, I have Zakai Ziegler, another player like RJ Davis, who just feels like, even more so than RJ Davis, honestly, feels like he's been in college basketball for so long. But he is still a top 15 point guard in college basketball. He is super good, and I think that he is going to play maybe even a bigger role than he has over the past couple of years for Tennessee this year. I think he's going to be a big-time player. I got him coming in here at number 13. Number 14, we have another transfer. He's been a few places, Mississippi State, Utah. Now he's over playing for Coach Pitino at St. John's, and that is De'Veon Smith. De'Veon Smith is an underrated player in the country. Super good playmaker, super good rebounding guard. That's another thing that I kind of forgot to mention about Braden Smith. He is a very good rebounding guard. I mean, for being a 6-foot guard, and I'm not even sure if he's a true 6 foot. He might be a 5'11" guard. To average 5 or 6 boards, kind of insane, especially whenever you're on a team with like Zach Edey, Trey Kaufman-Renn, who are sometimes playing together as well, to go in there and horse some boards. Braden Smith definitely deserves a lot of credit. De'Veon Smith, similar to Braden Smith, super good playmaker, super good rebounding guard, and he can score a little bit as well. He's coming in here at number 14. Number 15, I got Doug McDaniel, transfer from Michigan, heading down to Kansas State. This is one where I could see some potential to really climb the rankings here. At 15, you could argue it's a little bit low, but honestly, I feel like it's pretty good here for the preseason. But he has that potential heading into Jerome Tang's offense there at Kansas State. He loves those undersized, quick guards. who can shoot the ball. I mean, if he can turn into like even close to what Marquise Noel was there a couple of years ago, he's going to have an extremely good season. I think he's going to play a huge role on this Kansas State team either way. What he does with that opportunity, we will find out, but it would not surprise me at all if he is a top 10 or even a top 5 point guard by the end of the season or even the midseason. Number 16, I got Sean Padula, the transfer from Virginia Tech. He's heading over to Ole Miss to play for Chris Beard. And Sean Padula, underrated season for VTech last season. I mean, probably because they didn't make the March Madness tournament. They usually, they have been kind of winning the ACC out of nowhere and just kind of sneaking into the tournament and making some noise. Wasn't able to do that last year, so I feel like not a lot of people were talking about Sean Padula, but he's super good, and for Ole Miss to get a true point guard like that, I think it's going to help them a lot in this upcoming year, where they do have a lot of transfers coming in. I think Ole Miss probably get back to the March Madness tournament this year, or Chris Beard will get back to the tournament. Ole Miss hasn't been in the tournament in, I'm not sure how long. It's been at least 4 or 5 years from what, off the top of my head, at least. Number 17, we got Nigel Pack. Originally played his freshman year at Kansas State, but been at Miami for, I think, 2 years now. This will be his 3rd year at Miami, so he's going to be a senior. Nigel Pack didn't have the best year last year, but when Miami went on that Final Four run, he was a huge reason why him and Isaiah Wong were going absolutely bananas. And I think Nigel Pack, he's gonna step it up once again this year. He's gonna be a high impact player, and when they do get to March Madness, if Miami can make it this year, have a bounce back year because they missed it last year after a Final Four run and back-to-back Elite Eight runs, I think Nigel Pack is going to be a big-time player. If they do get back to March Madness, he's going to be huge for them. Number 18, I got Jacoby Gillespie. And Gillespie is a very good point guard, another underrated player, just because, these teams that don't make it to March Madness, they're kind of underrated, right? We know a Mark Sears because they made it to the Final Four. We know a R.J. Davis, a Braden Smith, Taman Lipsey. These were top seeds in the playoffs last year. Jeremy Roach was at Duke for forever. DeJuan Harris is at Kansas forever. We know these names. Jacoby Gillespie kind of overlooked because Maryland has missed the playoffs, but has missed the March Madness tournament. But he's a super good point guard. I think Maryland is sneaky, really good team this year who could definitely make the tournament. And if they do, Gillespie's going to be a big reason why, and he will definitely climb this list. If they are winning games and he is playing above the level that he was last year, which was already a high-level player, yeah, he's up here at 18 for the preseason, though. Hunter Salas, transfer from Gonzaga. He's going to be a big-time player for Wake Forest this year. He transferred 2 years ago. He played Wake Forest last year and was a really good player. Wake Forest is always going to have those really good guards, and it seems like they always just barely miss the March Madness tournament, and we don't get to see these high-scoring guards play in March Madness. So hopefully they will make it this year. I don't know if they will. I don't think they have the team for it this year if they didn't in past years, but Hunter Salas definitely going to have a big season for Wake Forest this year. Number 20, we have Ace Baldwin for Penn State, and Penn State's kind of a sleeper, I believe, in the Big Ten this year. Not a lot of people talking about them, but Ace Baldwin played at Penn State last year. Before that, he did play for VCU, and he was one of the better players in that league. And heading into Penn State, I kind of expected them to play a little bit better than they did last year. Kind of expecting them to take a jump up this year, but either way, I think Ace Baldwin is going to be a big-time player for this team, and he is a very good guard. Number 21, I got Tyrese Proctor. You might say, well, he's not a point guard. Well, he wasn't last year because they had Jeremy Roach. Well, as you can see, Jeremy Roach is up at number 7. He's on Baylor now. So who is going to step up and be that point guard for Duke this year? Looking up and down their roster, it's kind of looking like Tyrese Proctor is going to be that guy. Yeah, he's kind of an oversized point guard, you could say, but point guards are pretty big now, and he has the playmaking ability. I believe that he is going to be their starting point guard, and I got Tyrese Proctor coming in here at number 21. He's going to have to be a leader on this team for sure. Him and a guy like Mason Gillis, who they brought in through the portal. Other than that, they got a lot of younger guys on this team, and a lot of them are forwards and centers. And they're going to need a veteran like Tyrese Proctor to be that point guard. I think that he can do it. I think he's going to be a pretty good one as well. I got him here at 21. Number 22, I have my first freshman on this list, and that's Dylan Harper coming in here as one of the top recruits in the country. I think Dylan Harper is going to be really good. I just couldn't put him above some of these other solidified guys. Like Ace Baldwin's been doing this for 3 or 4 years. Jacoby Gillespie, Nigel Pack. I can't put him above some of these guys who have proven themselves as guards. Dylan Harper is a freshman. He's going to be super good for Rutgers. Very excited to watch him play. He could definitely climb this list, but in the preseason, it would be disrespectful for some of these other guys who have already proven themselves. And right behind him, another 5-star freshman. We do have Boogie Fland, committed to Arkansas to play for Coach Calipari. The 2 top point guards in the country coming out of high school. I think they're going to be super good. I got them coming in here at 22 and 23 on the point guard rankings. Number 24, we got Dylan Andrews, point guard for UCLA. I think UCLA could be sneaky this year. Don't want to overrate them, though, because I do see a lot of people already putting UCLA in their top 20 for this upcoming year. I'm not sure if they're going to be that good, but UCLA definitely could be sneaky. They're a well-coached team. I think Dylan Andrews is a good point guard, and I got him coming in here at 24. And number 25, I do have Tyrese Hunter. No, I do not think PJ Haggerty is going to be their starting point guard. I think Tyrese Hunter is their starting point guard. PJ Haggerty, I think, is going to be their shooting guard, and he will be in the shooting guard video, probably in the top 10. So just a fair warning. I know you guys are going to probably let me know, Memphis fans, let me know about PJ Haggerty as well, but I am going to have him in the shooting guard video, not this one. Tyrese Hunter is my number 25 point guard. He didn't have that great of a year last year for Texas. I think he's going to play much better here for Penny Hardaway and that system, which is very, very friendly to the guards. I think that they are going to have a lot of opportunities, him and Haggerty, and I think Tyrese Hunter improves upon as a playmaker as well this year. He could definitely climb this list, but for now in the preseason, I got him coming in here at number 25. Honorable mentions, Kanye Clary, transfer from Penn State. He is heading down to Mississippi State. Big fan of him and Josh Hubbard as a backcourt. But I think Josh Hubbard is probably going to be their shooting guard. Very high on him as a sneak peek to the top 25 shooting guards heading into next year. Day Harris for Cincinnati. Super good player, just didn't crack the top 25. Davion McKnight for Xavier, I think, is a very good player. Ryan Langborg, Princeton legend, transferred over to Northwestern, played pretty decent last year, and they're going to need him this year for sure to take a step up. But he didn't quite make the top 25. Illinois point guard, transfer from Arizona, Kylan Boswell. Super good playmaker. Maybe, I don't really know what to make about Kai Boswell yet. We'll see what he can do at Illinois. But Illinois has been kind of missing that true point guard, so hopefully he can play a good role fit there as Illini. And finally, I have Stephen Ashworth, the point guard for Creighton. He's one that I could definitely see, you argue, should have been in the top 25. I left him out because I kind of like guys like Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Andrews a little bit more, but he might have been my 26, honestly. Stephen Ashworth, a very good point guard. And before he was at Creighton, whenever he was over at, I believe, Utah State, he was going absolutely nuts and was almost a 20-point per game scorer. So if he can bring that back to Creighton, he's definitely a top 20, maybe top 15 point guard in the country, 100%. So let me know what you guys think about my list heading into this season. We still got, a couple more months until the season begins. So we're going to come out with every position, probably have one of these out once a week. We'll do shooting guards, small forward, power forwards, and centers heading into this college basketball season. We're going to have more college basketball preseason stuff, more and more as we approach it. College football stuff coming out very, very often. And we got a college football 25 series, dynasty series going on right now as well. So if you're into that, make sure you guys go check that out. And yeah, guys, that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.